Hello YouTube and Facebook, wherever you're watching this at, Vine. I'm Nalla Black. This is my Schecter Diamond J that I recently had hot rodded to hell by 3AG Guitars in Corbin, Kentucky. The dude's the boss. You'll find links to all his social media stuff down in the description of the video and on our Facebook and everything like that. He's got a whole post of the before and after pictures of this thing. This video is to show you mostly what it sounded like before, and for me to talk about all the things I had done to it. I bought this bass on eBay many years ago, 2014 I think. For $250 it came with a Behringer DI that I used for a long time as well. And it's from crappy Behringer too. It was back in the old days, back when Behringer was garbage. But yeah, I've been playing this thing for years. When I got this thing, I had a more expensive bass. I had a Ibanez SR500, and I never played it. I preferred to play this thing. I liked it more. I like this vintagey kind of like, I mean, I don't want to say Fender, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Fender, this design here, Fender invented, and everybody's just trying to copy it at the end of the day, but, you know, I love this thing. So yeah, pretty much at this point, the only thing on this thing that are original is obviously the body and the neck, the pickguard, and the nut. Everything else has been changed. This was originally, we'll start with hardware. This originally was just had a top load high mass bridge, kind of like a Leo Kwan Badass 2, or kind of like those high mass Fender bridges that Fender makes that they put on the Geddy Lee Jazz. I switched to a Hipshot A style because they're lighter, but they've got a lot better like body contact, and just the aluminum helps string vibration. Also, the main reason why I switched this really is because it's a string through body bridge, and that's really important to me because we tune down in pretty much everything we do, and that really helps with sustain. And that was the main issue that I have with this bass, was it didn't have very much sustain, and the pickups weren't very high output. But we'll get to that. But yeah, I literally every piece of hardware on this bass is Hipshot now. Even the I don't know if you can see that from here, but even the knobs are O-ring knobs, just because they're black, and that was one thing I wanted this bass to be, was like all black, except for the headstock obviously. But even then, the tuners, these are Hipshot ultralight tuners. You have to get a set of these and put them on your bass. You have to, for you to truly understand how much of a difference it genuinely makes. Like, this thing came stock with Grover tuners, and they're good tuners, but by no stretch of the imagination were they bad. But these are just so much lighter, and they look cooler. And I'm not a big fan of the cloverleaf keys, puppy paws. That's what I always called them. I wasn't crazy about them, so I like these T-shaped keys better. I think they look cooler. I even got the string retainer, is a Hipshot string retainer, which is also surprisingly lighter than the one that came on the bass. The one that came on the bass was much heavier. It's kind of crazy, the amount of unnecessary weight, it seems. Electronic wise, the stock pickups that were in it were fine. They didn't have high output. You know, you put it through enough distortion and processing, and I made it work for a long time, but I wanted the bass itself to have more punch, more oomph out the gate, so I decided to switch out to these Seymour Duncan quarter-pound jazz pickups. But if you play bass and you in any way follow like the whole aftermarket modification kind of thing, then you know about these. You've at least heard of them if you've never owned or played a bass that had these in it. I had a Ibanez MDB3, the Mike D'Antonio from Killswitch, his signature bass, and it had a quarter-pound P in it, and it sounded fantastic. But for years before I got that bass, I knew that these pickups sounded really, really, really fucking awesome. So yeah, they're much hotter than the pickups. Just testing it out before we started recording. They're definitely much hotter than the pickups that were in it. They're completely passive, which is important for me, because I don't like preamps on my basses. Like, we don't use amps anymore in our live setup, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, I could probably use one now that we don't, but even then, it's like I'd rather just the bass be the bass. And I got a pedal board, and we got our brain box, so I don't need a preamp. I don't want batteries powering my my instruments. The original Schecter Diamond J's, which were originally made in Indonesia, and that's not a bad thing. Oh, I'm sorry, South Korea. My bad. There's the serial number made in South Korea. My bad. But even then, Indonesian made instruments are not bad by any stretch. But South Korea also makes really good low price instruments. This thing's retailed, I want to say, for like $300 or $400 brand new. Like I said, I bought this for $250, probably $2 if you don't count the pedal. But yeah, the original, the electronics were really cool on these because it had coil tapping, so you could, well, not coil tapping. Well, I guess it was kind of coil tapping. It was just series parallel is what it really was. This tone pot here was originally, you pulled it up and you were in parallel and it sounded more like an old traditional jazz bass. But when it was in the down position, it was series and it had a little more output and it sounded a little more modern. But still wasn't enough output for me. But Ryan at 3AG Guitars, we had this push-pull pot, and these pickups, these quarter-pound jazz pickups, they can't really be... I mean, I suppose you probably, if you knew how to, like, do super crazy wiring stuff, you probably could wire them up for that kind of thing, but I just didn't bother with it ever, so Ryan decided to use this pot to effectively, when it's in the up position, it acts as a kill switch for the bridge pickup. Or, I mean, for the neck pickup. So now I could, well, it's not plugged in right now, but now I could turn the volume on this thing all the way down and just use the neck pickup and use the tone pot and just... Well, no, I mean, it's recording up here, but... Oh, yeah, I forgot, damn. We are recording at the same time. Anyway, let me see here. Anyway, that's a cool thing that you can do with this. But yeah, it's much lighter now. It sounds better now. But anyway, this is what it sounded like before we did all this stuff to it. Yeah, and that was it. You know, that's what it sounded like before. This is what it sounds like now. I'm going to try to play as close to the same riffs as I did before. Try to give you a better idea of what this thing sounds like than when I was dicking around with it a second ago with the kill switch. Anyway, this is tone and both volume pots all the way up. Nothing held back. That's how I always play it. It's how I record. It's a little riff from our song Persevere, title track off our EP. Check it out. So yeah, This is my heavily customized Schecter Diamond J. There will be more modifications coming in the future, not just to this bass, but to all of my other basses, and also a bunch of Tony's guitars. We'll eventually do those in the future too, so keep an eye out for those. Follow us on all the appropriate social media places, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Trauma Echo is the band. I do not social media, but, you know, the rest of the band does, so be on the lookout for them as well. I'm Nalla Black, and that was music.